Hey everyone, today's the day. The Google Pixel 8a finally releases to the general public. I went out and I got one. We're going to unbox it here today. I'm going to talk a little bit about it, give you my first impressions, and then also tell you what I'm expecting from this device going forward. Now here we have the Pixel 8a in bay in 128 gigabyte capacity. I do believe if you want to go any higher, you have to get it in the Obsidian. I have not been able to find any of the colors in 256. Now, right off the bat, I do think that this color is the best one that you can get right now. I mean, it just looks the best to me. It really pops, and it really looks good seeing the edges that are blue when looking at the front of the phone. Just kind of helps add a little bit of character to it, which is really important considering it does have thicker bezels. You know, anything that you can do to the design of the phone to make it more appealing at $499, I think really takes it a long way. And then that matte back finish with that sparkle. I really like the sparkle on the back. It looks nice, it's subtle. You can only see it in direct light. And then going on to the transfer process, yeah, that's just for the old iPhone users. Glad to have them. Then another cord, nothing special, no brick here. I mean, pretty flimsy box as well. Definitely a little bit flimsier than the other boxes that they released, like the Pixel 8 Pro had a little bit sturdier box. But that's kind of understandable. This is a cheaper phone. If they weren't going to give you a brick or anything for the more expensive ones, I can't imagine that they would do that for the cheaper phones here. But pretty straightforward, just a phone in a box, nothing too special here. Now that we have it out of the box, I want to talk about some of the things that you first notice with this phone. First thing is going to be the bezels. Now, the bezels are a little bit thicker on this phone than other phones, and that, of course, is because this is a cheaper phone. In fact, if you look down here, you can see the bottom bezel is actually a little bit thicker than all of them. I mean, they all are, pretty consistently thick all throughout. You can see where the screen protector kind of goes into the bezel territory. Kind of see that line there. It really shows just how much bigger the bottom bezel is. Now, I'm not too worried about this. I don't think this is going to really affect how much you would enjoy this phone. But if you're someone who does enjoy, an edge-to-edge screen, this might not be the phone for you. But if you are looking for an edge-to-edge phone, well, you're probably not going to be shopping the, $400 phone range. Now, turning to the back, this phone is absolutely gorgeous with this bay color. I mentioned it a little bit ago, especially the sparkles to it, but it really does just make the phone look like a much more premium phone. In fact, I would argue that this phone looks better than the Google Pixel 8 because the Google Pixel 8 has a glossier back, where this one looks like it's more of a matte finish. And personally, I just think matte looks a little bit nicer than the glossy finish. Also, not just the plastic part here. Oh, it's the double tap feature. Now, not just the plastic part here is more of a matte, but even the aluminum here, which I think is really important because that's going to stop any fingerprints or any smudges. Now, as you can see on my Google Pixel Fold, this thing gets fingerprints all over it. And that's because it does have the glossier trim, the glossier hinge and everything like that. It just collects those fingerprints. And while it does look really, really nice when the phone is cleaned off and polished, when you're touching it and you're getting your fingers all over it, it gets very smudgy very quick, and it makes it kind of hard to rock the phone without a case. Of course, there are a lot of reasons why you wouldn't want to use this phone without a case, but having those shiny edges to it doesn't help. Where back over here, like I mentioned, can touch this thing all day, and there's no issues. You can't tell. It doesn't attract that. Now, aside from the bezels, another thing I want to talk about when it comes to the display on this phone is going to be the refresh rate. Now, this phone goes up to 120 hertz refresh rate. It isn't on by default. You do have to go into the settings, go down to display, and then down here, we can find smooth display where it will switch from 60 hertz to 120 hertz. Now, I don't think Google really had to do this. When you think about who they're competing with, they're kind of competing with the bigger players like Apple and Samsung. And if you're going to go over and look at, say, Apple's phone, the iPhone, let's say iPhone 15, the iPhone 15 is only at 60 hertz. The Google Pixel 7a, which is a much cheaper phone, almost half the price, is 90 hertz. So a better refresh rate on a much cheaper phone, realistically, they probably could have gotten away with just doing 90 hertz, but I'm really glad that they didn't. I'm glad that they did do 120 hertz. I think it adds a little more value to the phone, which is good because given the price where it's at right now, $499, it's not expensive and it's definitely not nearly as much as any flagship phone, but it is kind of pushing it as far as mid-range phone prices go. Another upgrade with this generation is the brightness. Now, last year, the 7a only went up to 1000 nits peak brightness. This goes up to 2000 nits peak brightness. Now, just to give you an idea of, how good that is really good. In fact, my Google Pixel Fold, which some would say was a little bit behind the other foldables, it had a peak brightness of 1550 nits on the cover screen and then 1440 nits on the inner display. And then, of course, just looking at them, you may kind of notice that I've got the same wallpaper and same setup here. Is it's going to be the same exact Google Pixel experience that you see with the other Pixel phones. I mean, when I got into this phone and I set it up, I didn't transfer apps or anything from that phone to this phone. All I did was log into my Gmail. It asked me if I want to copy over some of the things saved with my Google account, and everything came over. All of my apps, everything, my text messages, my history, popped in the SIM card. So in a matter of a couple of minutes, I have already transferred everything from here to here without a cable, without connecting wirelessly, just by the fact that all I have to do is log into my Gmail to use this phone. I don't need an Apple ID. I don't need a Samsung account or anything else like that. It is just Gmail. Makes it very simple to set up and use this device. And already, even though I've only had it in my hands for, about 10 minutes, it feels familiar and it feels like it's ready to use. There are a few things that you need to download with this phone. Starting out, let's go ahead and go into our photos. So in here, I went ahead and I downloaded it already, but let me show you a few things. You will have to go ahead and download the Magic Editor tool right over here on the left. I already have it downloaded, but if you don't, it will show and it'll have a little download symbol. Then, of course, some other tools here, the Unblur and the Magic Eraser, both need to be downloaded, as well as the HDR effect that you can use. They do not come standard on here. I mean, it is available in the native camera app, but you do need to download them after getting into the phone. Also, I am very happy that I have my screensaver for my other phone over here on this one. It looks very, very good. But I'm going to go ahead and change that up. Wallpaper and style. Now, I already grabbed one that I do like, and it's this one here, but let me show you guys what I did here and how I made this. So I went ahead to the emoji workshop. That's what I'm working on. Let's start a new one, though. So as you can see, it kind of gives you some different emojis to work with here. Let's go ahead. Let's see here. I want to do, here we go, my absolute favorite emoji. So get that in here. Now we can go ahead and choose some different patterns to go from. I like the lotus. And I also like making it nice and small so you can kind of see it all together. Although mosaic is also kind of cool too. Colors, then a whole lot to choose from. I kind of like the blue here. I just think it looks really well. I mean, it looks really good on the phone just to use that. Let's go ahead and say okay. Go ahead and set home and lock screen, and then boom. And one thing I also like is that you can see when I touch on the screen or when I hold, kind of moves the emojis around. I don't know, kind of a nice live wallpaper. It does feel nice and customizable. Also, again, looks great with the blue color. Actually, as I'm holding it and looking at it, I'm starting to feel like I've got my iPhone 5C again. I mean, literally, it's the more affordable phone, plastic back, and it's blue. Yeah, kind of giving iPhone 5C vibes. In a good way. I know for a lot of you that might sound like a bad thing, but I like my 5Cs. Now, one thing I don't like about the design of this phone is actually the camera bar. Now, the camera bar at first glance looks good, and it actually looks like it fits the style of this phone just fine. I mean, typically when we look at phones within the same company, you see a more pronounced camera bar or camera bump the more expensive or the more advanced the camera is. For example, on the Google Pixel 8 Pro, the camera bar sticks out quite a bit, and you can actually rest the point of your finger underneath the camera bar, and it's very comfortable holding the phone, makes it very easy to know whether or not your finger is going over the cameras and getting in the way. But with this phone, because the camera bar is so thin and just barely sticks out of the phone, there's no rest when you're holding it. That is kind of a bummer because that is one thing I really liked about the design of the camera bar was resting your finger. It's not really something you can do here just because, again, that camera bar sticks out just barely. You can't really get any leverage. So that is a bummer there, though that's not really anything new from the last generation. The 7A also had a very thin camera bar, but I do wish it was just a little bit thicker. Even if it was just for show, it would make the phone a little more comfortable to hold. Though I do understand why they wouldn't want to make the camera bump seem so pronounced and exaggerated on a phone like this. After all, they do want it to be somewhat clear just by looking at the phone that it's not the most expensive phone. It is a little bit more simple than the other phones, just so that way their designs don't look as bland. You want everything to kind of fall in line. But, with that being said, this being the cheapest phone kind of gives it another advantage. So a lot of people have been talking about this phone and comparing it with the Google Pixel 8 just because the Google Pixel 8 is very close in price. It's about $699 where this phone is $499, and there was even a period not too long ago where the Pixel 8 was $499 on a special sale. So when you think about it, okay, this phone's, just a little bit under the next phone, and the Pixel 8 is all around a little bit better than this phone. Why buy this phone over that phone? Well, at this price point, a jump from $499 to $699, it's not that high. It's only $200, but I mean, that's almost a 50% increase on the cost. So you could go buy the Pixel 8 for $699, or if you're someone who's a little strapped for cash and you want to get good value, you could buy this phone for $499. And then if you do have the extra $200 lying around, and maybe you were going to buy a Pixel 8, you use that to buy yourself a really nice pair of headphones. These guys, for example, they retail for $199. I bought them on sale for $149. But even if you didn't catch them on a sale, you could buy a really nice pair of headphones or some really nice accessories or some other things with the amount of money that you would save buying this phone over the Pixel 8. Now, granted, you won't have as good of a phone as you would if you buy the Pixel 8, but I mean, come on, if you're going from $699 to $499 and you're still getting a really solid phone, and now you got money left over to buy some other cool stuff, I mean, that kind of might just be worth it. Now, with this phone, Google is giving you 7 years of software and security updates, which is a really long time, probably longer than anyone actually needs. I mean, most people hang on to a phone for about 3 to 4 years before they feel it's time to upgrade. But if you are someone who does like to, use a phone for as long as you possibly can, save money, maybe you'll even replace the battery to get a few more years out of it, and that is something you can absolutely do with this phone. And given it is a budget-friendly phone, having 7 years of software and security updates, I think that adds a lot of value to it. Even if you aren't going to use it, it's nice that you do have it there as an option. I know me personally, I'm going to probably be switching out phones a little more frequently, especially if the whole YouTube thing does go well and I'm able to, get more devices for the channel. But for a lot of people, a phone is just a tool, and that's all it needs to be. It doesn't need to be a hobby. They don't want to be enthusiasts. They just want a phone that's going to work. I think this phone is going to, fulfill that need for a lot of people. Now, there may be phones that are better at this price point. I'm not going to come out and say that this is the best phone at the best price, it's the best deal. But at $499, given the things that I do know about this phone, the new chip, the Tensor G3 chip, it does have the Google Pixel software and a lot of the same features that other Google phones have, like the camera software and things like that. I think this phone is going to be a tremendous value. But I am going to be using the phone just to kind of make sure that it is a good value. I'm not just buying it to show off and then put it in a drawer. I actually do want to use this device. I've been thinking about getting a Google Pixel 8 for a while, just because I wanted a backup phone, something that was just, very simple, single hand, not a folding screen, not a massive heavy phone. But I thought, I was going to wait because I knew that at some point a Pixel 8a was going to come out. And I knew that if it was anything like the Pixel 7a, it's going to be a really nice phone, and a lot of people were going to be happy with it. And I figured maybe I could be one of those people. But I'll let you guys know. I will let you know what I think about the device, kind of how it compares to using my other phone. I mean, these are two very different phones. We're talking about the most expensive phone Google sells right now and the least expensive phone that they sell right now. So I do imagine I will have, maybe some things that I love about one phone that I don't like about the other. And I'm sure I will see some pretty big differences between the two. But so far, I mean, given that it only took me a few seconds to set up and now everything's, same wallpaper on both phones, I think I'm going to really enjoy this device. And I'll make sure to tell you guys all about it, the good and the bad, everything, because really at the end of the day, what I want to do with this channel is I just want to set realistic expectations. It's very easy to, love on a device and say it's awesome for all the great things it can do. And it's also easy to pick on a device and, see all the things that people don't like. But, I want to see realistically, what is it about this phone that people are going to like? What are the things that are going to really annoy you? And what are some of the things that are just selling points? But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and end it there. If you guys could give this video a like, I would really appreciate it. I did buy this phone out of my own money, and I'm going to be using it, and I'll be sharing it with you guys. So, any comments down below, I'd greatly appreciate it. Let me know what you guys think about the phone. If you think maybe this is a phone that people should skip, if this is a phone that isn't worth the money, or if you have any questions about it, and I'll make sure to address those questions personally. But again, thank you guys for watching. I look forward to making more videos and talking with you guys more, and also telling you guys what I think about this Google Pixel 8a. You'll have a wonderful day, and I look forward to talking to you again.